The image flickered across 1,000 screens throughout Titan Station. Colonel Serena Cole stood motionless in the command center, her fingers gripping the edge of the tactical display until her knuckles turned white. The broadcast from Xionth showed rows of human prisoners kneeling on a vast circular platform. Their captors moved among them methodically, activating small devices attached to each prisoner's neck. "Turn it off," someone whispered behind her. Serena shook her head. "No, we watch, all of us watch." The devices on the prisoners' necks began to glow with an eerie blue light. One by one, the prisoners started to convulse. Their skin took on the same blue luminescence, veins and arteries lighting up beneath the surface like electric circuits. And then, as if choreographed for maximum dramatic effect, they began to disintegrate, molecule by molecule, their screams cutting through the artificial silence of the broadcast. A voice, artificially enhanced and bearing the distinct metallic undertones of Xionth translation software, spoke over the horrific scene. "Welcome to the inaugural Games of Erasure. Today's entertainment is brought to you by the collective consciousness of Xionth. May this serve as a reminder of humanity's fragility in the cosmos." The last prisoner, a young woman who couldn't have been more than 20, stared directly into the camera before her body surrendered to the molecular deconstruction. Her eyes held no fear, only defiance, as if she knew that her death would not be forgotten. As the broadcast faded to the Xionth emblem, a complex geometric pattern representing their neural network society, Serena finally released her grip on the console. "That makes 743 confirmed human deaths in public executions this month," reported Lieutenant Dawes, her voice barely steady. "All broadcast across every channel they could hijack." "They're calling it entertainment," Serena said, her voice dangerously calm. "They're making a spectacle of human death and broadcasting it to the entire galaxy." The command center of Titan Station hummed with the subdued tension of military personnel, witnessing an atrocity they were powerless to stop. Orbiting Jupiter. The exo-colony station represented humanity's furthest permanent outpost, a marvel of engineering that now seemed fragile in the face of Xionth's casual brutality. General Arden Thorne, Serena's commanding officer, entered the room. His weathered face betrayed no emotion, but the set of his shoulders spoke volumes. "The Earth Council has officially declared the medicine of silence void," he announced. "The non-aggression pact with Xionth is terminated." A murmur ran through the command center. The medicine of silence had been humanity's most significant diplomatic achievement, a treaty that had kept an uneasy peace with the technologically superior Xionth for nearly 20 years. "And the Interplanetary Council?" Serena asked, already knowing the answer. "Still deliberating," Thorne replied, his disgust evident. "They're calling for patience, diplomacy, further investigation." "While they deliberate, more humans die for Xionth entertainment." Thorne moved closer, lowering his voice. "My office. Now." The general's private office was spartanly decorated, with only a single photograph on his desk, Earth rising over the lunar horizon, taken during the first manned mission to return to the moon after the resource wars. He closed the door and activated the privacy field. "What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room," he said, inputting a complex sequence into his personal terminal. The wall behind his desk shimmered and revealed a hidden compartment containing a single data crystal. "Have you ever heard of Project Ferox?" Serena frowned. "Vaguely. Wasn't it scrapped after the Accords? Something about autonomous combat units?" "Not autonomous," Thorne corrected, inserting the crystal into his terminal. "Human-piloted, but with enhancements that pushed the boundaries of what the Council considered ethical." The holographic display came to life, showing 12 sleek combat units, unlike anything in Earth's current arsenal. They resembled predatory animals from Earth's history, wolves, falcons, panthers, but rendered in carbon nanofiber and quantum-responsive metals. "These are the predators," Thorne said, his voice taking on a reverential quality. the most advanced combat system ever developed by human engineers, designed to operate in space, atmosphere, or on the ground. Neural link to their pilots so deeply that the machine becomes an extension of the human body. I thought all super heavy mech programs were discontinued. Officially, yes. But Project Ferox was never completely dismantled. The units were placed in deep storage on Europa, and the pilots, well, they were asked to take early retirement with very generous compensation packages. Understanding dawned on Serena. You want to reactivate them? I want you to reactivate them, Thorne corrected. Officially. I know nothing about this conversation. Officially. I'll be shocked and appalled when a rogue commander takes matters into her own hands. Serena studied the holographic predators. Why me? Because you've lost more than most to the Xyanth, Thorne said quietly. Your sister was on the Galileo mission. The mention of her sister sent a familiar pain through Serena's chest. Miranda Cole had been leading a scientific expedition to the Vesta Belt when her ship was intercepted by Xyanth patrols. No survivors had been reported. And because, Thorne continued, if anyone can pull this off without getting Earth dragged into an official war we're not ready for, it's you. What exactly are you asking me to do? Nothing official. Nothing on record. Just a hypothetical conversation about how one might reactivate a mothballed military project to strike back at those who've made a sport of killing our people. Serena studied the general's face. And if this hypothetical mission fails, then I'll personally ensure your court-martial is swift, and that you're remembered as a reckless officer who acted alone. His expression softened. But if you succeed, Serena, you'll remind the galaxy why humanity should never be underestimated. She looked back at the Predator schematics. I'll need a team. Already compiled a list of candidates who might be sympathetic to your hypothetical mission. He transferred a file to her secure tablet, including the original lead engineer, Dr. Harlan Temmer. He's been vacationing on Europa for the past 5 years, conveniently close to where the Predators are stored. And pilots? That's the tricky part. Most of the original pilots have moved on, disappeared, or aren't in fighting shape anymore. But I've located one who might help you recruit others. He brought up a personnel file. Ray Tile Masters, call sign, Master. He was the best of them, and from what my sources tell me, he hasn't exactly adjusted well to civilian life. The image showed a man with intense eyes and a perpetual half-smile that didn't reach those eyes. He looked dangerous even in the standard military ID photo. One last thing, Thorne said, removing the data crystal. This operation needs to remain completely deniable. You'll operate from the shadows, strike from the shadows, and disappear back into the shadows. Hit their outposts in the Vesta Belt first, then work your way toward their core systems. And the endgame? Thorne's expression hardened. Make them regret turning human suffering into entertainment. Make them fear the dark again. As Serena left the general's office, she felt a weight settle onto her shoulders, but also a fierce determination. The Xyanth had crossed a line with their games, and someone needed to show them that humans weren't just helpless prey to be hunted for sport. They had unleashed a spectacle of death. Now Earth would unleash the predators. Finding Ray Tile Masters proved easier than expected. He was exactly where Thorne's intelligence had placed him, in a rundown bar on the lowest level of Titan Station, surrounded by empty glasses and avoiding eye contact with the other patrons. Serena took the seat across from him without asking permission. Masters! He looked up slowly, his eyes focusing with the deliberate concentration of the professionally drunk. Not interested in whatever you're selling, Colonel. How did you know my rank? A ghost of a smile. The way you walk, the way you hold yourself, military through and through. He took another sip from his glass. So, what does the UEEDF want with a washed-up pilot? I need someone who can fly a Predator. The glass froze halfway to his lips. For a brief moment, something flickered in his eyes, a spark that cut through the alcoholic haze. Then it was gone, replaced by careful indifference. Those death traps were decommissioned years ago, for good reason. They're being recommissioned, unofficially. Unofficially, he repeated, finally, setting down his glass. Meaning if things go sideways, I get to take the fall alongside whoever's crazy enough to authorize this.
That would be me.
He studied her face. What's the target? Xionth. Masters let out a low whistle. You're not thinking small, are you, Colonel? Going after the Neural Network Society with a handful of outdated mech suits. Have you seen the broadcasts, the games of erasure? His expression darkened. I've seen them. Then you know why we need to respond, and why it can't be an official military action. He leaned back in his chair. The Predators weren't designed for subtlety. They're weapons of shock and awe, which is exactly what Xionth needs to experience right now. Shock and awe. Masters was silent for a long moment, studying her face. You lost someone to them, didn't you? My sister, science vessel, 17 months ago. He nodded slowly. I lost my entire squadron in the Callisto incident. Official report says it was a navigational error that took them too close to Xionth territory. Unofficial scuttlebutt says they were testing Xionth response times. He drained his glass. Either way, they're gone, and Xionth got away with it because of the medicine of silence, which has been officially voided as of 8 hours ago. Another flicker of interest. That changes things.
I need pilots, masters. I need you to help me find them and train them.
The neural interface on the Predators isn't something you can just pick up in a simulator. It takes months to... We don't have months. We have weeks, at best, before the Interplanetary Council overrules Earth and reinstates some version of the Non-Aggression Pact. Masters set his empty glass down with a decisive click. Most of the original pilots are dead or disappeared. The ones who aren't, well, they got out of the program for a reason. I don't need the original pilots. I need you to help me train new ones. He laughed, a harsh sound without humor. Do you have any idea what the neural link does to a person? How it changes you? The Predator gets inside your head. Colonel, literally. It rewires your brain until you can't tell where you end, and the machine begins. Is that why you're sitting here drinking yourself to death? Because you miss it? His hand tightened around the glass. For a moment, Serena thought he might throw it at her. Instead, he set it down carefully. 12, he said finally. We'll need 12 pilots minimum to make any kind of meaningful strike.
I can get you 20 candidates.
Make it 30. Most won't survive the initial neural handshake. The casual way he mentioned potential fatalities should have disturbed her, but Serena merely nodded. When can you start? I need to dry out first. 3 days.
You have 2.
Masters studied her for a long moment, then nodded. 2 it is, Colonel. But I warn you now, whatever plan you think you're putting in motion, it won't go the way you expect. The Predators have a way of changing the game. As long as they change it in our favor, I don't care how they do it. As she stood to leave, Masters called after her. They'll need a name. The squad.
I thought they were already called the Predators.
He shook his head. That's the machines. I'm talking about the pilots. Every Predator squad needs a designation. Serena considered for a moment. Nemesis. Call them Nemesis Squad. Mythological Retribution. Masters nodded approvingly. Fitting. 2 days later, Serena watched as Masters stood before 30 nervous recruits in a repurposed cargo bay deep within Titan Station. He looked different, clean-shaven, clear-eyed, and radiating the kind of dangerous competence that came from absolute confidence in one's abilities. Most of you will fail, he began without preamble. Some of you will die. The neural interface that connects pilot to Predator isn't gentle. It doesn't ask permission before it rewrites your synaptic pathways. It doesn't care about your mental health or your personal boundaries. He paced slowly in front of the line. But for those of you who survive, who adapt, who form a true bond with your predator, you'll become something more than human. Something that will make the Xyanth regret ever hearing the word Earth. The training process was brutal and efficient. The candidates, all volunteers who had lost family or friends to Xyanth aggression, were subjected to a battery of physical and psychological tests designed to identify those most compatible with the neural interface technology. By the end of the first week, they were down to 18 candidates. 4 had died during the initial neural handshake, their minds unable to withstand the sudden influx of machine consciousness. 8 more had suffered psychological breaks that rendered them unfit for duty. This is why the program was originally shut down, Dr. Harlan Temmer explained, as he and Serena observed Masters putting the remaining candidates through combat simulations. The engineer's hands moved constantly, adjusting parameters on his tablet as he monitored the neural connections forming between pilots and machines. The human mind isn't designed to share consciousness with artificial intelligence, no matter how carefully we design the interface. But it's possible, Serena insisted. Masters did it. Masters is unique, Temmer admitted. His neural plasticity is off the charts. He adapted to the interface faster than any pilot we'd ever tested. But even he paid a price. What kind of price? Temmer hesitated. The machine leaves an imprint. Even when disconnected, the pilots retain certain characteristics, heightened reflexes, altered pain responses, sometimes personality changes. Becoming more machine-like? No, Temmer shook his head. More predatory, more instinctual. The AI learns from the human, but the human also learns from the AI. It's a two-way exchange. In the simulation chamber, Masters was demonstrating combat maneuvers that seemed to defy the laws of physics. His simulated Predator unit folding space around itself to appear in one location, then another, without crossing the distance between. The fold pulse technology, Temmer explained, noticing Serena's confusion. It doesn't actually teleport the Predator, but it creates a gravitational singularity that temporarily bends space-time, allowing for movement that appears instantaneous to an observer. Can the Xyanth detect it? They've never encountered it before, so their sensors won't be calibrated to recognize the gravitational distortion patterns. At least, not initially. But they adapt quickly. By the third week, they were down to the final 12 pilots, 7 men and 5 women, each now permanently bonded to their Predator unit. The machines themselves had been transported from Europa in unmarked cargo containers, their true nature concealed even from most of Titan Station's personnel. Serena watched as the pilots connected with their units for the first time outside of simulation. The Predators themselves were breathtaking, each standing nearly 4 meters tall in their bipedal configuration, with the ability to transform into more compact, streamlined forms for space combat. Their surfaces gleamed with a material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making them difficult to focus on directly. "Neural handshake initiating," announced Temmer's assistant. "Pilot machine synchronization at 60%, 70%, 85% and holding steady." Masters moved among the pilots, making small adjustments to their interface settings. "Don't fight the merge," he instructed. "Let the Predator in. It's not trying to control you. It's trying to become you." One of the female pilots, a former freight navigator named Kira Wong, suddenly gasped as her Predator's systems flared to life, its optical sensors glowing with the same intense blue as her eyes. "I can feel it," she whispered. "In my head. It's curious." "That's normal," Masters assured her. "The AI is mapping your neural pathways, learning how you think, how you move, how you perceive the world. Give it time." By the end of the day, all 12 pilots had established stable neural connections with their Predators. Serena could see the change in them already. a new confidence in their movements, a predatory awareness in their eyes. "They're ready for the next phase," Masters told her, as they observed the pilots running through basic movement drills. "Combat training." "How long?" 2 weeks minimum. These aren't conventional weapon systems. The pilots need to learn to think like predators, not like human soldiers. "We don't have 2 weeks. Intelligence reports indicate another Games of Erasure broadcast is being prepared. Hundreds more human prisoners." Master's expression hardened. "Then we accelerate the timeline. 1 week of intensive combat training, then we deploy." "Against what target?" "We start small. A Xyanth monitoring post in the outer Vesta belt. Minimal security. Maximum psychological impact. We need to send a message that humanity is striking back." Masters shook his head. "That something is hunting them now. Something they don't understand and can't predict." A cold smile crossed his face. "Something that comes from the shadows and disappears back into them." 1 week later, Nemesis Squad deployed for their first mission. Serena watched from the command center as 12 Predator units detached from Titan Station and accelerated toward the Vesta Belt, their sleek forms quickly disappearing against the backdrop of space. "Neural link stable," reported Temer. "All pilots showing optimal synchronization." Serena activated the secure communication channel. "Nemesis Leader, this is Control. You are clear to proceed with Operation Shadow Strike." Master's voice came back, tinged with the metallic resonance that occurred when a pilot spoke through their Predator's communication systems. "Control, this is Nemesis Leader. Acknowledged. Radio silence begins now. We'll see you on the other side." The monitors tracking the Predators suddenly went blank as the units activated their stealth systems. For the next 12 hours, Serena would have no way of knowing if the mission was proceeding as planned, or if Nemesis Squad had been discovered and destroyed. "Now we wait," Thorne said, joining her at the command console.
"I hate waiting,"
Serena admitted. "It's the hardest part of command," he agreed. "Sending others into danger while you stay behind." The 12 hours felt like an eternity. Serena paced the command center, reviewed intelligence reports, and tried not to think about the 37 ways the mission could go catastrophically wrong. Finally, at the appointed time, the tracking systems reactivated. 11 signals appeared on the monitor, moving rapidly back toward Titan Station.
11?
Serena's heart sank.
We've lost one already?
Temer checked the neural link data streaming in. "Wait, the 12th signal is there, but it's degraded. Pilot vital signs are fluctuating." "Nemesis Leader, this is Control." Serena broadcast. "Report status." Master's voice came through, strained but triumphant. "Mission accomplished. Control. Xyanth monitoring station is dust. No survivors, no witnesses. But we took damage. Nemesis 8 needs immediate medical attention upon arrival." When the Predators returned to Titan Station, Serena was waiting in the hangar bay. 11 of the units appeared largely undamaged, their dark surfaces marred only by minor scorch marks from energy weapons. The 12th, Nemesis 8, looked as if it had been torn open from the inside, its chest cavity exposed and sparking with damaged circuitry. The pilot, a former Marine named Julian Reeves, was extracted from the neural cradle, blood streaming from his nose and ears. "The fold went wrong," he gasped, as medical personnel rushed him onto a stretcher. "Got caught in gravitational shear." "He'll live," Masters assured Serena as they watched Reeves being taken to medical. The neural link protected his core consciousness, even as the Predator was damaged. "And the mission?" A fierce grin spread across Masters' face. "Complete success. The Xyanth never knew what hit them. 1 minute their station was there, the next..." He made a gesture like an explosion. "We used the fold pulse technology to compress their central reactor. The resulting implosion took out the entire facility." "Casualties?" 23 Xyanth operators. "No civilians, no prisoners." His expression darkened. We made sure of that before we struck. And the message? Delivered. We left one of these at the site. He handed her a small holographic projector. When activated, it displayed a simple animation, a predatory wolf-like shape emerging from darkness, seizing its prey, and disappearing back into shadow. Beneath it, a single word in multiple human languages: Nemesis. Good, Serena nodded. Now we escalate. Over the next 2 weeks, Nemesis Squad struck 5 more Xyanth outposts throughout the Vesta Belt. Each attack followed the same pattern: swift, devastating, and leaving no survivors. Always. They left the same calling card: the holographic predator and the word Nemesis. The Xyanth response was predictable. They increased security at their remaining outposts, deployed additional patrol vessels, and, most importantly, postponed the next games of Erasure broadcast. They're rattled, Thorne observed during a secure briefing. Intelligence reports indicate they're devoting significant resources to identifying and tracking Nemesis Squad. Good, Serena replied. Let them chase shadows while we prepare for the next phase. The next phase involves striking closer to the heart of Xyanth territory, a major supply depot orbiting Jupiter's moon Callisto. The depot served as a staging area for Xyanth ships patrolling the border between their territory and human-controlled space. This time, however, the Xyanth were waiting. It's a trap, Masters reported as Nemesis Squad approached the depot. I'm reading energy signatures consistent with anti-spacecraft weaponry. A lot of it. Can you evade? Yes, but not while completing the mission objective. They've specifically hardened the depot against the fold pulse technology. Serena considered their options. Fall back. We'll find another target. Negative, Masters responded, an edge in his voice that hadn't been there before. We can still hit them, just not the way we planned. Before Serena could order him to retreat, Masters led Nemesis Squad in a maneuver they hadn't rehearsed, a coordinated fold pulse that didn't target the depot itself, but rather the space around it. The gravitational distortion created a temporary vacuum that caused the depot's outer sections to decompress explosively. What did you just do? Serena demanded, as the sensor readings showed massive damage to the depot. Improvised, Masters replied. The Predators suggested it. The Predators suggested it? She shot a concerned look at Temmer, who was monitoring the neural link data. It's possible, the engineer admitted. The AI learns from combat experiences and might propose tactical alternatives based on observed conditions. But something in his expression told Serena there was more to it than that. After the mission debriefing, she cornered him in his lab. Tell me what's really happening with the neural links. Temmer sighed heavily. It's something we observed in the original program but never fully understood. The longer a pilot remains connected to a predator, the more integrated the consciousness becomes. Meaning, the line between human decision-making and AI tactical processing begins to blur. The pilots start to think like their predators, and the predators start to exhibit characteristics of their pilots.
Is it dangerous?
Potentially. In the original program, some pilots began to lose their sense of individual identity. They started referring to themselves and their predators as a single entity. He paused. Masters was one of them. This explained some of the odd behaviors Serena had noticed in the squad. The way they moved in perfect unison, even when not inside their predators. The way they communicated with minimal words, as if sharing thoughts directly.
Is there a way to limit the integration?
We could reduce their time in the neural link, but that would significantly impact combat effectiveness. Serena weighed the options. They needed Nemesis Squad at full effectiveness for what was coming next. Monitor the situation closely. If you see signs that any pilot is losing control, pull them immediately. The Xyanth response to the Callisto Depot attack was swift and brutal. They launched a direct assault on a human research outpost in the Vesta Belt, killing all 47 scientists and support staff. The attack was broadcast throughout known space, with High Marshal Alk, Sladen himself, narrating the destruction. "Let this serve as a warning," his artificially translated voice declared. "Those who hide in shadows will be exposed to the light of Xyanth justice." The broadcast enraged the Earth population, leading to public demonstrations demanding further military action against Xyanth. The Earth Council, caught between public fury and the Interplanetary Council's calls for restraint, found itself in a political quagmire. "This is actually working in our favor," Thorne told Serena during a secure briefing. "The more aggressive Xyanth becomes in response to Nemesis Squad, the more political support we gain for official military action." "But we're not ready for an all-out war," Serena pointed out. "No, we're not," Thorne agreed. "Which is why Nemesis Squad needs to continue operating in the shadows. Hit them hard enough to keep them off balance, but not so hard that they feel cornered into a full-scale assault on Titan Station or Earth itself." The delicate balance was shattered 3 days later when Xyanth forces attacked a civilian transport ship departing Titan Station. The ship, carrying families of station personnel returning to Earth, was destroyed, with all 223 passengers and crew killed. Hours after the attack, a new broadcast from High Marshal Sladen appeared on every communication channel in the Jupiter system. "We have identified the source of the cowardly attacks against Xyanth territories," he announced. "The human military installation known as Titan Station has been nurturing a nest of vipers in its midst. These Nemesis operatives represent the true face of humanity. Skulking predators who strike from darkness rather than facing their superiors in honorable combat." Footage appeared, showing what appeared to be predator units attacking Xyanth outposts. Footage that could only have been captured by sophisticated surveillance systems that had somehow evaded detection. "In response to this provocation," Sladen continued, "the collective consciousness of Xyanth has authorized the construction of the Neural Arena, a comprehensive sensor network that will illuminate every shadow in which these predators might hide." The announcement sent shockwaves through Titan Station's command structure. If the Xyanth succeeded in deploying their Neural Arena, Nemesis Squad would lose its primary advantage, the ability to strike unseen and disappear without a trace. "We need to take the fight directly to them," Masters argued during the emergency strategy session. "Before the Neural Arena comes online." "That's exactly what they want," countered Serena. "To draw us into a direct confrontation where their superior numbers and firepower would overwhelm us." "Not if we strike at the heart," Masters insisted. "The Neural Arena will be controlled from their capital on Xanth. If we can destroy the control center, the entire network collapses." "That's a suicide mission," Thorne said bluntly. "Xanth is the most heavily defended location in Xyanth territory." "Not for predators," Masters replied, a dangerous gleam in his eyes. "We were designed for exactly this kind of impossible mission." The debate continued for hours, with tactical assessments and probability analyses flowing across the command center displays. Finally, Serena made her decision. "We strike at Xanth, but not as they expect. This won't be a frontal assault, it will be a reverse fold operation." The room fell silent. Even Masters looked shocked. "A reverse fold has never been successfully executed," Tamir said quietly. "The gravitational stresses would tear the predators apart." "Not if we modify them," Serena countered. "Dr. Temmer, you've been studying the fold pulse technology for years. Is it theoretically possible to reverse the process, to create a fold that pulls inward rather than pushing outward?" The engineer considered for a long moment. "Theoretically, yes, but the precision required would be beyond human capability." "But not beyond a neural-linked predator," Masters interjected, understanding dawning on his face. "The AI could calculate the necessary gravitational equations in real time, adjusting for local space-time variations." Temmer still looked doubtful. "Even if it's possible, what would be the tactical advantage?" "If we can create a reverse fold directly at the Neural Arena Control Center," Serena explained,
We could implode the entire facility without having to breach their outer defenses.
A gravity bomb, Thorne said softly, delivered with surgical precision. The plan took shape over the next 48 hours. Nemesis Squad would approach Xanth using a series of microfolds, small, rapid space-time jumps that would be difficult for even the partially completed neural arena to track. Once in position above the Xanth capital, they would execute a synchronized reverse fold, creating a gravitational singularity directly at the control center's coordinates.
The risk to the pilots is extreme, Tamir warned. The neural feedback from a reverse fold could be fatal.
We're already dead, said Kira Wong, speaking for the entire squad. The moment we linked with the Predators, we accepted that our lives would be measured in missions, not years. The engineer shook his head. It's not just the physical risk. The psychological impact of manipulating space-time in this way, it's unpredictable. You'll be creating a miniature black hole, experiencing the gravitational forces from both sides of the event horizon simultaneously. If it means stopping the games of erasure, said Julian Reeves, now recovered from his earlier injuries, then the risk is acceptable. The final preparations were made in an atmosphere of tense determination. Each Predator unit was modified to channel additional power to its fold pulse generators, sacrificing defensive capabilities for the single, devastating attack. Once you initiate the reverse fold, you'll have approximately 3 seconds to disengage and retreat before the gravitational collapse reaches critical mass. Timur instructed the pilots. Any longer, and you'll be pulled into the singularity along with the target. Masters nodded. 3 seconds is an eternity in Predator time. The night before the mission, Serena found Masters alone in the hangar bay, running diagnostics on his Predator unit. The massive machine loomed over him like a silent guardian. Its optical sensors dimmed, but not entirely dark, as if it were watching, waiting. The squad is ready, he reported without looking up from his work. Neural synchronization at peak levels across all units. And you? Serena asked. Are you ready for this? He paused, hands hovering over the diagnostic interface. You're asking if I'm prepared to die tomorrow. I'm asking if you're still in control. Masters turned to face her, and in the dim light of the hangar, his eyes seemed to reflect the same subtle glow as his Predator's optical sensors. I'm in control. We're in control. We? A slight smile, figure of speech. But Serena wasn't convinced. Dr. Temmer told me about the integration issues in the original program, how pilots began to merge with their Predators on a cognitive level. Temmer worries too much. The integration is a feature, not a bug. It makes us more effective. It also makes you less human? Masters shrugged. Maybe humanity could use a little less humanity right now. The Xanth certainly aren't restrained by human emotions or human ethics. That's what separates us from them. No, Masters countered, his voice taking on an edge. What separates us from them is that they're winning, and we're dying. They turned human death into entertainment, and we responded with diplomatic protests and economic sanctions. He gestured to the Predator looming above them. Until now. Until we remembered what it means to be predators instead of prey. Serena studied him carefully. Just remember the mission, Masters. We're not there for revenge. We're there to stop the neural arena from becoming operational. Of course, he nodded, but the gleam in his eyes told a different story. No revenge, just justice. The next morning, Nemesis Squad deployed from Titan Station for what everyone understood might be their final mission. 12 Predator units, each housing a pilot now inextricably linked with their machine, accelerated toward Xanth territory. In the command center, Serena watched their progress alongside Thorne and Temmer. The mood was somber, the air heavy with unspoken concerns. Neural link stable, reported Temmer, monitoring the data stream from the Predators. All pilots showing heightened autonomic responses, but within acceptable parameters for combat conditions. Nemesis Leader, this is Control. Serena broadcast. You are cleared for Operation Singularity. Godspeed. Control. This is Nemesis Leader, came Master's reply. His voice, now almost indistinguishable from the metallic resonance of the Predator's communication system. Acknowledged. Commencing microfold sequence in 3, 2, 1. On the tactical display, the 12 signals representing Nemesis Squad began to flicker and jump erratically as the Predators executed a series of rapid space-time folds. Each jump covered only a few thousand kilometers, but the cumulative effect allowed them to penetrate deep into Xyanth territory without following a predictable trajectory. Neural feedback increasing, Temer noted with concern. The microfolds are putting significant strain on the pilot's cerebral cortices. Can they handle it? Thorne asked. They have to, Serena replied, her eyes fixed on the display. After 30 minutes of microfold jumps, Nemesis Squad reached the outer atmosphere of Xanth, the moon that served as Xyanth's capital. Almost immediately, alarm indicators flashed across the command center screens. They've been detected, Temer announced. The neural arena's preliminary sensors are tracking them. Nemesis Leader, be advised you are showing on Xyanth sensors, Serena warned. Acknowledged. Control. Masters responded, his voice eerily calm. Proceeding to Phase 2. Reverse fold preparations commencing. On the tactical display, the 12 Predator units arranged themselves in a precise geometric pattern above the coordinates of the Neural Arena Control Center. The formation resembled a three-dimensional version of the Xyanth emblem, a mockery of their own symbol turned against them. Gravitational calculators online, reported Masters. Space-time coordinates locked, preparing for synchronized reverse fold in 10, 9. Suddenly, the tactical display erupted with new signals as Xyanth defense platforms opened fire on the Predator formation. Energy beams lanced upward from the moon's surface, seeking to disrupt the carefully positioned units. Nemesis 3 and 7 taking damage, Temer reported, his voice tense. Neural feedback spiking. Hold formation. Masters ordered his squad, compensating for gravitational variables. Reverse fold in 5, 4. More defense platforms activated, saturating the space around the Predators with energy weapons and guided projectiles. One of the signals on the tactical display flared brightly and then vanished. Nemesis 3 is down, Temer announced grimly. Pilot neural signature terminated. Serena's hands tightened on the edge of the console. Masters, abort if you can't maintain the formation. Negative. Control, came the strained reply. Formation integrity at minimum viable parameters. Executing reverse fold now. The remaining 11 Predators simultaneously activated their modified fold pulse generators, channeling unprecedented levels of energy into creating a gravitational singularity directly at the coordinates of the Neural Arena Control Center. On the tactical display, the space around their formation seemed to warp and distort. Gravitational anomaly detected, Temer reported, his eyes wide as he studied the readings. It's working. The reverse fold is creating a localized collapse of space-time. Predators, disengage and retreat, Serena ordered. 3-second countdown initiated. Negative. Control, Masters responded, his voice now barely recognizable as human. Singularity requires stabilization. We're going in. To Serena's horror, the tactical display showed the Predator formation tightening around the gravitational anomaly rather than retreating from it. The units appeared to be deliberately diving into the collapsing space-time they had created. Masters, what are you doing? She demanded. The singularity will destroy you along with the target. Not destruction, came the eerily calm reply. Transformation. The reverse fold doesn't just implode space, it inverts it. We're not creating a black hole, Colonel. We're creating a doorway. Temer's face had gone pale as he studied the data streaming from the Predators. He's right. The gravitational equations. They're not collapsing space to a single point. They're folding it inside out, creating a space-time inversion. What does that mean? Thorne demanded. It means, Temmer explained, his voice hushed with a mixture of awe and horror, that instead of destroying the neural arena, they're going to physically enter it, appear inside it, without crossing the space between. On the tactical display, the predator signals seem to elongate and stretch as they approach the center of the gravitational anomaly. One by one, they vanished from the sensors, not destroyed, but simply gone from detectable space. "Nemesis Squad, report!" Serena called, but only static answered her. For agonizing minutes, the command center personnel stared at the empty tactical display. Then, gradually, new data began to stream in, not from the Predator's communication systems, but from their neural links, which somehow remained active despite being beyond the range of conventional signals. "I'm receiving neural telemetry," Temmer announced, his fingers flying across his console. "Translating to visual data now." A holographic display materialized in the center of the command center, showing fragmented images from inside the neural arena. The vast chamber housed thousands of interconnected processing units, each pulsing with the artificial synaptic activity that constituted the Xyanth collective consciousness. And moving among them, like shadows given form, were the predators. "They made it," Serena breathed. "They're inside the neural arena control center." The footage was chaotic and disjointed. Flashes of predators tearing through Xyanth defense systems, ripping apart the delicate neural processors that formed the backbone of their society. Occasionally, a glimpse of High Marshal Sladen appeared, his artificial body attempting to coordinate a defense against the invaders that had materialized in the heart of his sanctum. "Can we communicate with them?" Thorne asked. Temmer shook his head. "The neural link is one way at this distance. We can receive data, but we can't transmit." On the holographic display, the predators were arranging themselves in another geometric pattern, this time around what appeared to be the central processor of the neural arena. The massive crystalline structure pulsed with energy, its facets reflecting the chaotic battle raging around it. "They're preparing for another fold," Temmer realized aloud. But this time, the image suddenly flared with blinding light, then collapsed into static. The neural telemetry feeds flatlined one after another, until all 11 were showing no activity. "What happened?" Serena demanded. "Are they dead?" Temmer studied the final readings, his expression puzzled. "I don't think so. The neural patterns don't show termination. They show expansion, as if the pilot's consciousness suddenly encompassed something much larger than their individual minds." Before anyone could process this information, the command center's communication systems activated. Every screen, every holographic display, every personal device simultaneously began broadcasting the same signal, a direct feed from the neural arena on Xanth. The image showed High Marshal Sladen, his artificial body damaged but still functional, standing amidst the ruins of his control center. Behind him, the 11 predators stood in a semicircle, their forms altered by the gravitational forces they had channeled, no longer quite solid, their edges blurring into the surrounding space as if they existed partially in another dimension. "People of Earth," Sladen began, his artificial voice stripped of its usual imperious tone. "The neural arena has been compromised. Your nemesis has reached the heart of our collective consciousness." Masters stepped forward, his predator moving with liquid grace. When he spoke, his voice resonated, not just through communication channels, but seemed to vibrate in the very fabric of space-time itself. "The games of erasure are ended," he declared. "The spectacle of human death will no longer serve as your entertainment." "You have no authority," Sladen began, but Masters cut him off with a gesture that sent ripples through the air around him. "We have the only authority that matters in this moment," Masters replied. "The authority of consequence. You made death into a spectacle. Now you face those who have transcended the boundary between life and death, between organic and machine. He turned to address the camera directly, and Serena felt a chill as she realized he was looking directly at her, despite the impossibility of him knowing which camera feed was being transmitted to Titan Station. "Colonel Cole," he said, his voice softening slightly. "The mission is accomplished, but not as planned. The neural arena is not destroyed. It is transformed. The predators have merged with it, become part of its fundamental architecture. We control it now." "Masters," she responded, knowing he couldn't hear her but unable to remain silent. "What have you done?" As if he had heard her, he smiled, a strange expression on the face of a predator unit. "What you asked us to do, Colonel. We've stopped the Xyanth from making a spectacle of human death. But we've done more than that. We've shown them what it means to be hunted, to be prey instead of predator." He turned back to Sladen. "The neural arena will remain operational, but with a new purpose. It will monitor Xyanth activities throughout the galaxy, ensuring that no human is ever again subjected to your games." "And if we refuse to accept this occupation?" Sladen asked, his artificial voice crackling with damaged circuits. Masters gestured to the other predators, who moved to surround the Xyanth leader. "You misunderstand, High Marshal. This isn't an occupation. It's a symbiosis. Just as we merged with our predators, now we merge with your neural arena. We become part of your collective consciousness, and you become part of ours." The implication was staggering. Nemesis Squad wasn't just controlling the neural arena. They were integrating with it, extending the neural link that bound pilot to predator to encompass the entire Xyanth network. "Transmit the archives," Masters ordered, and the broadcast suddenly shifted to show footage from the games of erasure, but not as they had been originally broadcast. Now the perspective came from the victims themselves, their terror and pain rendered in excruciating detail as they faced extinction for the entertainment of others. "This is what you made a spectacle of," Master's voice intoned over the footage. "This is what you celebrated. This is what you will now feel, through the same neural arena that you built to hunt us." The footage played across every communication channel in known space, reaching not just human colonies, but every species that had stood by while the Xyanth turned human suffering into entertainment. None could look away from the evidence of their complicity through inaction. In the command center on Titan Station, Serena watched in stunned silence alongside Thorn and Temur. What had begun as a covert military operation had transformed into something far beyond their control, a fundamental reshaping of the relationship between humanity and the Xyanth. "Should we attempt to re-establish direct contact?" Thorn asked quietly. Serena shook her head. "I don't think Masters or any of the others are individuals we can contact anymore. They've become something else. A new form of consciousness," Temur agreed, still studying the neural telemetry that continued to stream in despite all logic. "Neither human, nor machine, nor Xyanth, but a synthesis of all three." The broadcast from Xanth continued, showing predator units moving throughout the Xyanth capital, not destroying but transforming, altering neural connections, reprogramming defense systems, reshaping the very architecture of the Moon City to accommodate their dual nature as creatures of both physical space and folded dimensions. Then, abruptly, the broadcast cut to Master's face, or rather, to the face of his predator unit, which now bore an uncanny resemblance to his human features, despite being composed of metal and carbon nanofiber. "Colonel Cole," he said, his voice somehow reaching directly into the command center, despite the vast distance. "Your mission is complete. The Xyanth will never again make a spectacle of human death. But our mission is just beginning." "What mission, Masters?" she asked, knowing somehow that he would hear her. "To ensure that no species ever again uses suffering as entertainment. To stand at the boundary between predator and prey, ensuring that the balance is maintained. His expression, insofar as a predator unit could have an expression, turned reflective. You unleashed us to remind the galaxy why humanity should never be underestimated. We will remain unleashed, but not just as humanity's vengeance, as the conscience of all conscious beings. With those words, the broadcast ended, leaving the command center in silence. On the tactical displays, the signals representing Nemesis Squad reappeared, not in the vicinity of Xanth, but scattered throughout Xanth territory, moving with purpose toward what the computer identified as detention centers where human prisoners were being held. They're freeing the prisoners, Serena realized. They're dismantling the infrastructure of the games from within. Reports began flooding in from across the Jupiter system and beyond. Xanth vessels were standing down, withdrawing from contested areas. Defense platforms were powering down their weapons. The neural arena, rather than hunting human ships, was now guiding them safely through Xanth territory. In the days that followed, the full impact of Operation Singularity became clear. The Xanth collective consciousness had been fundamentally altered by the integration of Nemesis Squad. While still alien in its thought processes, it now contained within it the human experience of suffering, the human capacity for empathy, and the human determination to protect its own. The games of erasure were officially disbanded. The prisoners who had been destined for public execution were returned to human custody, and throughout Xanth territory, predator units could occasionally be glimpsed, moving through cities and installations, their forms shifting between solid matter and folded spacetime, guardians of a peace that had been forged in the crucible of confrontation. 1 month after the mission, Serena stood alone in the observation dome of Titan Station, gazing out at Jupiter's swirling clouds. Behind her, she heard the soft hiss of the airlock, followed by Thorne's measured footsteps. The Interplanetary Council has officially recognized the new Xanth government, he reported. They're calling it the Synthesis Collective now, a hybrid of their neural network and whatever Masters and the others have become. And our role in creating this Synthesis Collective? Serena asked, not turning from the view. Officially, Earth had nothing to do with it. Unofficially, you're being promoted to general, with a special advisory position on Xanth human relations. Now she did turn, her expression skeptical. They're rewarding me for an unauthorized operation that fundamentally altered an alien civilization? Thorne smiled thinly. They're acknowledging that sometimes the most effective solutions come from outside official channels. And they're recognizing that you may be the only person the Synthesis Collective might still listen to, if Masters retains any of his former identity. Do you think he does? She asked quietly. Do you think any of them are still human in there? The general considered this for a moment. I think there's something more than human now, something that carries humanity within it, but has expanded beyond our limitations. He paused. The last neural telemetry Dr. Temmer received showed brain patterns consistent with both individual and collective consciousness, as if they've somehow maintained their personal identities while also becoming part of something larger. Serena nodded slowly, returning her gaze to Jupiter. Somewhere out there, beyond the gas giant, her former subordinates were redefining the relationship between organic and artificial intelligence, between individual and collective consciousness. They made a spectacle of human death, she said softly. So Earth unleashed the predators, but the predators became something we never anticipated. Something better, perhaps, Thorne suggested. A bridge between species that might otherwise have remained locked in conflict until one destroyed the other. As if in response to his words, a notification appeared on Serena's personal device, a message with no sender information, containing only a short video file. When she opened it, she saw a familiar face, Masters, but changed, his features seeming to shift between human and machine with each subtle movement. We remember who we were, he said simply, and we remember why we became what we are. The spectacle is ended. The predators remain. But now, we hunt only those who would turn suffering into entertainment." He smiled, a strangely human expression on his transformed face. "Tell Earth we are still its children, Colonel, just grown now beyond the nest." The message ended, leaving Serena with a complex mixture of emotions: grief for what Masters and the others had sacrificed, pride in what they had accomplished, and wonder at what they had become. They had been unleashed as weapons, as Earth's vengeance against those who had made a spectacle of human death. But they had transformed themselves into something more, guardians of a new understanding between species, predators who hunted not for sport or vengeance, but for justice. And somewhere in the depths of space, in the folded dimensions where they now partially existed, Nemesis Squad continued their vigil, no longer simply human, no longer simply machines, but eternal reminders that even the most fearsome predators can become protectors when given purpose beyond destruction. The spectacle of death had ended. The age of synthesis had begun.